Welcome back to another episode of Tailgate with the Tullys. I'm CJ,
I'm Ryan.
and we're going to continue our MLB preview starting here with the AL East. A lot of moves made, as we've talked about before. We have the Yankees losing some big pieces, but gaining some big ones. You got the Red Sox making some moves, and always the Orioles, who are now always in contention. So, a lot to talk about here, Ryan. Let's start with the Yankees.
Yeah, so some of the new things they lost Juan Soto, which was huge. Obviously, everyone knows going across across the Subway Series to the Mets. They got Cody Bellinger, a great power bat. Obviously, he hasn't been the same since his MVP season. They got Paul Goldschmidt, a great first baseman. Again, he hasn't been the same since his MVP season either. Um, I have like a little theory about any Cardinals players since the Philly series that they've just all been rough since like the Phillies destroyed the Cardinals, and
Yeah,
Paul Goldschmidt was on that team, and
that was something.
there's been a lot of struggle there.
Gene Segura,
Gene's
single-handedly.
because even Ryan Helsley has struggled.
Yeah.
That's not this division though, but
Mhm.
it's my fear with Goldschmidt is just he is getting up there in age and he hasn't been the same. Max Frieden, a nice addition from the Braves, and Devin Williams, great closer from the Brewers. So.
Yeah, the Yankees finishing 94 and 68 last year, losing in the World Series 4-1 to the Dodgers. We all know about the infamous game where they sold
Yes.
everything, and we did shoot a video during that, so that was a pretty tragic moment. I did have the Yankees winning that World Series, but yeah, as Ryan said, added a lot of star power here. Did lose Soto, which is obviously something that's going to bite you, but I think you brought in enough to kind of overshadow the Soto loss, especially with
Mhm.
it not being in division. I mean, in the same state, but not
Yep.
something that's necessarily going to haunt you immediately. So that'll be interesting. Max Fried is somebody I'm loving in this rotation. A rotation that already has Garrett Cole and some other star pitchers. So add Fried in there, and you know you're going to get lights out pitching. On the batting end, this lineup, the way it's going to shake out, currently it's looking like it's going to be Jazz Chisholm, Aaron Judge, Cody Bellinger, Goldie, Wells, Dominguez, Rice, Volpe, Cabrera. That to me screams a lot of power and a lot of potential. Somebody like Volpe at the bottom of the lineup can really produce power whenever you need it, and he seemed to be getting on base towards the end of the season, which you love to see. Aaron Judge obviously going to do his thing, and I like that they moved him down a bit, get the speed on base beforehand, let Jazz make something happen on the base path. Another great addition that they added late last year was Jazz. You also have power with Goldie if he wants to get it back, and you have Bellinger, another left-hand bat that's going to step in for Verdugo and Rizzo's loss. So I'm loving the Yankees this year, and with already making the World Series last year, I see a deep run for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think this team got better. They didn't get worse. I think it's something that you really needed when you see the competition of the Dodgers getting better. Um, I do love the 1, 2, 3 punch of Judge, Bellinger, and Goldschmidt. If they can all click, that is so scary if you're a pitcher
Hmm.
because who do you not want to throw to? If you don't want to throw to Judge because Judge has been hitting 60 home runs. Oh, well, then you have to face former MVP Cody Bellinger. You don't want to pitch to him. You got former MVP Paul Goldschmidt. Obviously, again, back ends of their career, like
Right,
starting to get a
it's
little
really
older.
gonna depend on what they can bring
Yes.
this late into their career because you did see a big fall off from Goldschmidt last year.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's something that it can, if it clicks, that's scary. But
Mhm.
and also the way their lineup is kind of similar to the Phillies with like a lot of big power, big names, and then you fall towards the bottom, and it's like, can the bottom pick up if the top can't do it? I
Well,
think that the Yankees,
I love Oswaldo at the bottom of that. He's somebody who really
yeah,
turned it on last year. Had a wild stretch for a bit there. So I think if Oswaldo as the nine hitter can really get things going, you have Volpe right above him. That could be scary to turn over that lineup. You have Jazz then leading off, back down to Judge. That could be a scary little swing around there.
yeah, exactly. I think if the guys at the bottom can, I think I said this in the World Series too. It's whoever, it comes down to the guys at the bottom. If they can flip the
Mhm.
lineup over to that top,
To follow that, we also have the Orioles. Orioles finished 91 and 71, losing in the wild card 2-0 to the Royals. Gunnar Henderson just forgot how to play baseball in that series. So we'll look to see what the Orioles can do. Again, I still feel like they were ahead of schedule with everything that's happened with that team. A great year 2 years ago, following it up with the wild card last year in the over 90 wins. So I think as they start to get a little bit more familiar with the postseason, a little bit more familiar with who they are, I think this O team can really make a run. This year, you did add Tyler O'Neill, who I loved him on the Red Sox last year, and I think if he could stay healthy, is a great addition to this O's team. Charlie Morton in the rotation, some more veteran leadership. Dylan Carlson, Ramon Romano. These are guys who, again, kind of veteran leadership in the outfield there. As you see Cedric Mullins starting to fall off, I would like to see if maybe you can get a Dylan Carlson in there to start a little bit. Lineup this year is looking like Henderson, Westberg, Rutschman, Cowser, O'Neill, O'Hearn, Mountcastle, Holiday, Mullins. So again, another lineup that's kind of trickling down in talent once you get to the end. But if Henderson can get it going, my guy, I would love to see Henderson go for an MVP season this year.
do you think that the Orioles are just a regular season team? I don't see this team having much success in the playoffs again. I don't think they even did enough to fix what they had last year. Their biggest issue was in the playoffs. Everyone went cold. Nobody could hit a baseball on that team. The Royals absolutely walked all over them. They didn't even, the Royals didn't even have to do anything. The games were just kind of handed to them. It's a team that for the last 2 years people keep saying they're ahead of schedule, they're ahead of schedule. I don't see this team finally clicking. I mean, they're a very good team. They will probably get second or first in their division. I don't see this team being a playoff team. I think they're built for the regular season. I think that it's a team that has a lot of young talent, but they don't have veteran guys who can really like keep the group together. You have a bunch of kids who all grew up like together. Like they're like 3 years older, 2 years older than me. Like this is like me being Jackson Holliday's my age. He's like a month older than me.
Yeah.
And so just like to think about it that way, you also lost Anthony Santander, one of your best power bats, and you
Tony
lost Corbin
Taters.
Burns. You lost Corbin Burns too. That's a big pitcher to be losing, especially in a rotation that while they have some decent guys there, they don't have like a dominant starter. And I think you said Charlie Morton. Charlie Morton, I'm sorry, dude's like 42. Like it's time to hang up the cleats at some point. And I don't see this Orioles team being able to compete. I think that the Red Sox are gonna bump this Orioles team down.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this rotation, I will say. I mean, you have Zach Eflin, former Phil, as your ace now on the team, followed by Rodriguez, Morton, Kramer, and Sugano, who you added this year. So an interesting pitching rotation here. Nobody I think is the standout, especially when you have lineups in division like the Yankees and the Red Sox, who we'll get to. Those are going to be the teams you're going to have to dominate to be able to get into the playoffs. And if you don't have the rotation to do it and not being able to pay Burns or make him come back, that's a huge loss there. You could make a move at the deadline, but the Orioles rotation is definitely going to be the weakness.
I think the weakness, and I think still just in the playoffs, like I don't know how
I think
much,
that comes down to veteran leadership and
and they don't have that. They
experience
don't,
in the playoffs. And I think that's where,
but
it's
they
kind
haven't
of
won a
coming for
playoff
them.
game. They haven't won a
No.
playoff game in the 2 years there. That's an issue. Like you don't even have experience of winning. Your only experience for these guys is losing playoff games, and everyone else that's been there for a while has never played in a playoff game
Well, that's why
other
I
than
feel
these
like a
losses.
Mountcastle and O'Hearn, like those are the kind of people at Cedric Mullins, you got
They've
to
never
start replacing. You got to start
yeah, but
replacing
they've never
them.
even been to the playoffs either. Like
Well, they've been to
their
playoffs.
guys,
They've
well,
been to
they've been to
playoffs.
the
That
playoffs,
was,
but like
yeah.
before because the Orioles hadn't made the playoffs since like
Right.
2013 or something.
Like, why are the Orioles never in talks for like a Vladimir or a Pete Alonso? Like, why are they not in talks for these big bats to replace an O'Hearn or a what's his face?
Mountcastle.
A Mountcastle. Like, why are you so stuck on that and not trying to get these bigger names? It's a very homegrown team, which is great, but you need to bring in some more pop. Moving on from that, we do have the Red Sox who finished at 581 and 81 last year. Some are saying that that was a winning season for them, given what they had to work with. I really thought they could have made a late run and a late push. It doesn't seem like they were really trying to, though. This year, you had Garrett Crochet, you had Alex Bregman. We'll see. We'll talk about where he's going to be playing. You had Walker Bueller, who again didn't have a great season last year for the Dodgers, but another veteran that you're adding to the team. You had Chapman and Patrick Sandoval. So to a rotation that was already dominant and could have been seen as one of the best rotations of baseball, you add some more. You lose Tyler O'Neill and you lose Nick Pivetta, but the talent that they brought in, I'm loving. And yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that this Red Sox, I think the biggest issue is there's right now they've lost their team chemistry. You have
I wouldn't go
Rafael,
that far.
I would.
I
You have a
wouldn't.
new guy coming into your locker room and you have two players talking smack on him already saying that, oh, well, it's Rafi Devers' position. Rafi Devers is one of the worst defensive third basemen in the league statistically. He should not be playing the third base position. Alex Bregman is a better third baseman at the position. I'm not saying hitting wise, at the position. If anything, put Rafi Devers at first base or something because Tristan Casas out here also backing that fact. Dude, you like that is an issue. You're bringing a new guy in your locker room and you're already having issues. And it's Alex Bregman literally said, "I'm just happy to be here," and he hasn't even done anything. And to me, that's their biggest issue right now. They have a great pitching staff. They have a really talented team around. You have Bregman, you have Casas, you have Devers, you have Masataka Yoshida, who had a really good season 2 years ago before he started on the downward. If he can get back to where he was a very talented player. You have Jaron Duran, who's an absolute dog. I mean, I know he has his
I have a lot to say
controversies and
on him.
stuff, but he's a very good player. He can do it on all facets of the game. He can hit, he can run, he can field. I mean, a guy who went through so much mentally to get to the position he is,
Hmm.
where he did get the All-Star Game MVP. He could be a potential MVP candidate if he didn't play. I think the worst part is that all the good players are AL wise, like so there's so much
Pop.
competition there
Yeah.
because of the fact that you have Judge and it's like Bobby Witt Jr., Gunnar Henderson, Jaron Duran. These guys who could be potential
We'll
candidates are
watch
gonna
we'll watch Bobby fall off a little bit.
we're not talking smack on Bobby Witt Jr. when Gunnar Henderson does nothing. But
We'll have a Gunner versus Bobby
Gunnar
video coming
Henderson
out
fell
soon.
off after the All-Star game. He did absolutely nothing. Bobby Witt Jr. only got better and beat Gunnar Henderson in the playoffs. We're not even going to talk about this right now.
All right, well, as
But
you said, let's look at this Red Sox lineup. You're leading off with Duran, who I'm going to say now, Silver Slugger, Gold Glove. Jaron Duran's going to have himself a season this year, and I'm looking forward to it. You have Devers after that, who's going to play third base, and I see Bregman out there at second. You then have Casas at first, Story at shortstop, who if he can have a little resurgence and just be healthy, honestly, I mean, people forget about Trevor Story as a Rocky. Like he was a dog, and
I loved him in
if
the
he could bring that
Rockies.
back, that would be amazing. Then you got Yoshida, who I know a Red Sox fan is not too happy with him. You have Wong, Abreu, and Rafaela, who another guy who I'm looking to see make a big jump this year and be great for them in center field. I love this lineup. I love the speed. I love the power you have mixed in. And if they can get it to click, I see them winning the AL East.
Connor Wong was batting like 300 for majority of the season last year. He was going back and forth, but he's a guy who sat there last year and was batting very well. He was getting on base. Again, Billy Bean would have loved this dude. He was getting on base, and that's a very important thing for your catcher, where the catcher position is a very as not very deep, and Connor Wong is a good catcher.
Yeah, definitely. You look at this rotation as we talked about. You have Crochet, Hawk, Bueller, Giolito, Bello. That rotation is scary, and honestly, competing with the Yankees is the best rotation in the AL. Now moving on to a team that's kind of been a mystery. We had the Toronto Blue Jays finishing 74 and 88 last year. Such a weird team, such a weird dynamic that's going on. We'll just talk with some of their additions. You had Santander, you take Hoffman from the Phillies, you had Andres Jimenez, Max Scherzer, and Miles Straw. Just overall weird conglomeration of who you've added. You really only lost Romano, but is that enough? You have Bichette wanting out, you have Vlad who's going to want out, and just looking at this lineup, you got Springer, Bichette, Vlad, Santander, Kirk, Wagner, Varsho, Jimenez, and Clement. I don't know what to make of this team. I'd love to see them make a push, but I really see a lot of this team falling off after this year. Kind of just putting the foot on the gas to make themselves known for the trade deadline and for next year, and then they're just kind of giving up.
Yeah, to me, the Blue Jays this year are going to be like a fashion show. Just see, let's see what we got, and then we'll pick from there.
Hmm.
It's kind of like it's like a dating profile, you know.
Yeah,
We're gonna swipe right on some players. This is just for free agency
yeah.
of who's going to be.
Huge
Uh,
season coming from Vlad for that exact reason, though.
I exactly. I think Vladimir Jr., he's going through the camera roll. He's picking good pictures to put
Yep.
on that profile, and it's just one. It is a weird team. They made the playoffs a couple years ago. They haven't looked great since. It's these. There's a lot of teams in the MLB who have just made the playoffs after having droughts and just not been able to do anything. They do have a very weird dynamic, like you said. Bo Bichette wants out. Vlad wants out. You bring in a declining Max Scherzer. You bring in Jeff Hoffman, who wants to be a starter after being a reliever for the Phillies for the last couple of years. Anthony something there was a great move. It's just a weird move to make when you're not really going to be competing, especially with your division.
Hmm.
The Miles Shaw and the Andres Jimenez moves, those are good pieces if you were again a competing team where these guys are just fillers that like come off. Like these guys would have been good on like a Phillies, a
Hmm.
Yankees, where they're bench bats for you.
Yep.
These are their starters. Like Andres Jimenez had an All-Star season. He hasn't been bad. He's not been great. It's Miles Shaw. There was a huge controversy with him last year, and like fans and all. But it's that's a weird team.
Yeah, definitely. I see them finishing fourth in this division, right above the Tampa Bay Rays, who finished 80 and 82 last year. A team that went from farm system, we're amazing, we're just going to find our way into after Wander Franco's
Wander
situation.
ruined the Tampa
He
Bay
did.
Rays.
He is the Carter Hart of the Tampa Bay Rays. Just that situation puts you back so far. You get rid of Randy Rosarena. You bring in Christopher Morel, who I liked him as a Cub. I mean, you've had him now. That's not a new addition, but he's somebody on that team now. You add Hassan Kim and Danny Jansen. Nothing that I see moving the needle for this team. Your lineup is Diaz, Brandon Lau, Caminero, who I do want to get to. You have Josh Lau. You have Morel, Aranda, Jansen, DeLuca, and Walls. I'm not seeing much to take away from that lineup. Caminero is the one piece that I saw him come up last year, and I was really looking forward to what he could bring. I see him making a name for himself this year, and I think he could really be the bright spot for this team.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's a switch hitter. He's a very talented player who's good on defense too, which is good. They were building around Wander Franco. After that, you lose Randy. You lose all these guys who you were a playoff team. You had the great pitching staff. The Rays are that team that just like won games like 3-0. Their pitching staff would get a good enough job. They went to the World Series with a worse team than they did when Wander Franco was there, and then you had the chance to build off of that, and it just everything came crumbling down, and it stinks. And like you said, there's really no standout guys on this team. You have Caminero, who's good. You have Yandy Diaz, who had a really good season 2 years ago. Taylor Walls was a great defender, but he's not a great power hitter or contact hitter. Like he's just kind of a good
They also
defender.
don't have a home right now,
That
and
is
they're
true too.
looking to
Your
move.
stadium is torn.
Yeah,
They're a team who is kind of like the A's, but
let's
like
get
a
them out.
very they're more talked about like fan wise than the Rays or the A's, but they're worse. Like they're bad.
We went to a Rays game. They don't even open up the top section of the stadium because they know they can't sell the tickets.
Exactly.
Well, thanks guys for watching another episode of Tailgate with the Tullys. I'm CJ.
I'm Ryan.
We'll be back next week with another video. Check us out on Instagram at Tully Tailgate and TikTok at Tully Tailgate, and we'll keep you guys posted.